What is up, artists and movers? Welcome back to my channel where we are taking our love for dance to the next level. And today, as you can see, this video is going to be a little bit different. We're going to unpack a pretty serious and important topic because it does affect all of us. And with the recent killings of Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, the past killings of Tamir Rice, Trayvon Martin, Walter Scott, Mike Brown, I feel like at this point, we should all realize that racism is not about being nice, and it's not about having good intentions. It's about making intentional decisions every single day and carrying out those decisions through action of how you're going to combat and eliminate racism in this country. Because as we all know, racism is not an idea. It is an institution. It is something that has been used to structure an entire country. And so it finds its way to seep into every bit of our lives. And in a recent video, I shared with you guys that some of my first experiences with racism and implicit bias were through dance. And so that shows that no spaces are immune to racism. So today I just want to share with you guys 5 different ways that you can be anti-racist and can really make sure that you are combating racism in your dance communities, in your dance studios, in your rehearsals, so that we can constantly keep making steps toward positive change. My first way that I want to share with you guys that you can be an anti-racist dancer and combat racism in your dance community is to train before you teach. A lot of these cultural dances are forms of expression that have derived from people's experiences within their culture, people's specific struggles, their spiritual beliefs in that culture. And so if you see a cool dance move and you decide to just take it and put it in your choreography or teach it in a class even, you are being disrespectful of that culture. And it's not flattery, it's defamation of a culture. Because not only are you teaching it wrong, you're teaching it wrong and you're profiting off of it, whether if it's through getting paid for a dance class or doing choreography for a music video or whatever it is. There are people who have dedicated their lives to sharing their specific cultural dances. And within that, they've also dedicated their lives to sharing the spiritual aspects and the motivations behind the movement. And you can't fake that. You have to learn that. And so that's the first way. Let's just train before we teach. The second way you can be an anti-racist dancer and combat racism within the dance community is to listen and actively support. Speak up when you notice that either a parent or a fellow dancer becomes uncomfortable in a situation that could possibly concern racism or implicit bias. For so long in this country, Black people have been told that the way to survive is to be silent, to be quiet, to keep your head down, and to be grateful that they're even given opportunities to be in certain spaces. So it takes someone sometimes with a little bit more privilege than us saying that they care about what we have to say for us to even share some of those thoughts. One of the biggest things that you can do for Black people around you is to simply listen if they say that something is concerning them, and to listen with open ears and then follow that listening up by asking what it is that you can do, because it's not something that that person can change usually. It's something that the majority, usually white people around them, have the capability of changing. And once you do it once, continue to do it. Continue to show up so that they can know that they can trust you and that you are just as dedicated as they are to making sure that they have just as great of an experience in that space as you do. My third way for being an anti-racist dancer and combating racism within the dance industry is to share the value of Black teachers or minority teachers who come in contact with your students. So if that means being vocal to dance conventions when you really feel energized from a class that they teach, sharing it with the studio owners and the runners of the studio that you truly enjoyed that class and sharing with them what you got out of it, because the way that this whole system works is based off of supply and demand. And a lot of times, minority teachers are not considered until someone says that they are of value. And so by sharing that value with other people, you not only show that they're valuable, you also show that they're worth being paid a fair rate. Because a lot of these teachers also can be hired, but not necessarily hired and paid with their worth. My fourth way for being an anti-racist dancer and combating racism within the dance community is to consider the nuances of costuming. And I know some of y'all ain't gonna like this one, but I have two questions that I think you should pose to yourself when you're choosing to use costuming that is of a specific culture. My first question is, are you using that costuming, the clothing, to highlight that culture and its people who are from that culture? Or are you simply using it because it looks cool and it gives visual appeal? Is it an integral part of that piece, of that work, of that dance, or does it just look cool? And then my second question has to do with hair. Ask yourself if the hairstyles that you're choosing to use are typically associated with people of certain ethnicities. And if they are, do they get to wear it with as much freedom as you do? Or are they considered unprofessional, unkempt, or dirty sometimes when they choose to wear it? I think a lot of times people think cultural appropriation is about stealing and saying that no one else can wear a certain style or no one else can use something from a certain culture. And that's not what it's about. It's just about making sure that if it's highlighted on one group of people, then it should be highlighted on all people. And so if you do choose to use costuming, clothing, hairstyles that are associated with certain cultures, then just make sure that it actually is highlighting the culture itself and the people wearing their culture freely as a form of expression. Because that's what it is. That's what hairstyles and clothing are. There are forms of personal expression. And so if it's okay for someone who isn't even of that culture to wear it, then it should also be okay for the people who actually developed it to wear it as well. Also, when it comes to costuming, let's make sure that it doesn't push uniformity so much to the point where it infringes upon looking appealing on people who may look a little bit different. This, to me, is really important if you're in an educational setting. We understand that when it comes to the dance industry at large and the commercial dance industry, that because there are large amounts of money and branding behind them, that certain looks are expected. And that's a whole other conversation for another day. But when it comes to dance studios and educating children in dance, those should not be things that become standards when it comes to costuming. So, for example, let's normalize allowing little brown girls to wear brown tights when they perform, especially when tights are intended to accentuate the lines when we dance. I think that's one of the simplest ways. Or, sure, the hair has to be in a bun, but does it have to be straight in that bun? Can they be allowed to wear their normal hair textures? Can makeup still be flattering on the brown girls? Can we not make it so that everyone has to wear the exact same shade of red lipstick and the exact same shade of eyeshadow? Just little things like that so that everyone gets to look their best when they perform. Everyone gets to feel just as confident when they step out in that costume or in that makeup. Those should not be things that become standards when it comes to costuming. And my fifth and final way that you can be anti-racist and combat racism within the dance community is super simple, and it's honestly the bare minimum. And that is just to make eye contact. I can't tell you guys how many times I have been to dance studios and taking classes from certain people, and not only did the teacher not look at me during the class, as far as in my eyes as a human being, but they didn't look at me when I went to say thank you. They didn't look at me when they passed by me. And it's not saying that everyone has to have a full-blown conversation with you, but racism is rooted in the belief that certain groups of people are lesser than, and even to some extent, they believe that they're not human. And so deciding not to make eye contact with someone is extremely dehumanizing. Making eye contact is the simplest way to say, I see you and I'm grateful that you're here, especially to those who are patrons of your art. The students in your class, they believe in your art and they believe in you. And to not make eye contact, it's dehumanizing. This doesn't just apply within the dance studio and in the classroom, but also on sets. There are so many people who go into making a production happen, and all the way down to the PAs, they all deserve eye contact. It's the simplest way to say thank you for putting your time and energy into this production. We all may not have time for a full-blown conversation, but we all have time for eye contact. And so those are it, you guys. Those are my 5 simple ways that you can be anti-racist in your dance community. I wanted to make sure that during this time, what I'm doing and what I'm contributing is giving tangible ways that people can go about creating positive change. So that's what I've been dedicating myself to doing, and that's what I'm doing right now with this video. I hope you guys found it helpful. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. What are the simple ways that you're going to combat racism? Again, it's not just about being nice. It's not about having good intentions. It's about calling it out when you see it and making the decision not to be the person who is doing it. So thanks you guys for listening to this video, and we will get back to our normal content next weekend. I have a cool, fun workout for you guys, and some other fun videos that I've been planning. So I can't wait to get back to the dance content. Love you guys, and I'll see you in my next video next weekend. Later.